Well, hello and welcome to Hey It's the Luskos. It's your host, Jenny.
And Levi.
And we are so glad to welcome you. Thanks for listening.
Yes,
what a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It's a beautiful day.
We are closing in on April. It is barreling towards us like a freight train.
Ooh, sounds really intense.
But don't worry.
We have something come more at us like butterflies.
April showers bring May flowers. So may it rain this spring. May we not have forest fires this summer. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Well, thanks for listening to what we truly believe will be a life-changing, paradigm-shifting conversation. Today we have on the podcast Scott Harrison, founder and CEO of Charity Water, a nonprofit that's goal is to make sure there is no person on earth without clean drinking water, which right now, 1 out of 10 people alive do not have access to safe, clean drinking water.
Yeah.
Something we take for granted. With clean water coming out of our taps that many of us are like, oh, I don't drink that. I only drink it out of the refrigerator, or I only drink, LaCroix. Talking for a friend. But to think and remember, people don't have water, and Scott's goal is to eradicate it and then move on to the next problem.
Yeah. Well, this conversation is so inspiring, and I'm excited for you to listen to this, because no matter where you are in life, whether you are a CEO or whether you are a mom, which is the CEO
or
of the
if you
home,
or you run a bagel shop. I mean, this is going to change how you approach.
I just want to say thank you, because I love bagel shops.
Who doesn't love a good bagel?
I grew up going to this bagel shop in
Let me see
Monterey,
if I can say
California.
the name of it. Say it with a bagel bakery.
Yes. And I just loved having an everything bagel with cream cheese. Like, that was just my favorite. So happiness comes from a bagel.
I really do try and avoid the bagels.
Have a bagel shop.
They're so dense and they have so many carbs. It's outrageous
really
how much is in a carb.
They're so
how many carbs is in a bagel?
There's just something so special about a bagel.
Toasted bagel with cream cheese is fabulous.
So regardless of what you do in life or where you are, this is going to inspire you to do it with urgency and intensity and with everything that God's given you, to be creative and think outside the box. And
to think inside of your box.
Inside your box.
What you have in your box.
Thinking outside of your box, in your box.
Honestly,
and your bagels.
This will encourage you and challenge you. Think of someone in your life you could send it to, by the way. Or this would be a great one to listen together or talk about it afterwards. If you have a team, a staff, we talk about some unique HR policies that are just different. Some very cool.
Or don't have your staff listen to it.
Yeah,
then they'll want to work for Charity Water.
They may all go work for Charity Water. But
good luck with that, by the way.
No, but I would just echo everything we talk about with him. Finding your own thing, not to do what he does, but to think how he thinks.
That's good,
and that's the key. And for us at Fresh Life, some of the unique staff policies we have with flex days and Ferris Bueller policy, paternity, maternity. These things have only enhanced, and it shows trust between you and the team you work with.
Yeah.
And anyhow, I would really stress that this is a good one if you are a leader, which if you are alive and serving God, you are a leader.
True.
In whatever capacity.
Point.
And this will be a good one for you.
Yeah. Well,
thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. We see all the posts when you guys put these on your stories and Instagram and tag us, and let's get to see that something's encouraged you. It definitely helps us to know this is being listened to, and that's exciting. And so thanks a ton. We hope it helps. And man, Scott's the best. Yeah. Scott Harrison for president.
Enjoy.
The silver fox.
Foxes make actually horrible noises.
They really do?
If you go, it's the red fox. Our friends, Ben and Donna Stewart, live in DC, and they have foxes that live near their home. And she sent me a video. It was like dark morning, and this fox, like, they make horrible sounds. It sounds like a human is screaming out loud. So I think they're called a red fox, and it's horrible. So
what about a silver fox?
What does the silver fox
Scott reminds me of is Tom Cruise in the movie Collateral when he had silver hair.
Oh yeah.
He was a serial killer. It is what it is. No, he was not really he was a serial killer. He was an assassin, like a murderer for hire, but they really made you pull for him.
It's true. I remember that movie. I don't remember a lot of movies.
Silver Tuna
stuck in my mind.
Please do enjoy this conversation with Scott Harrison. Scott Harrison, welcome to Hey, It's
Welcome.
the Luskos.
Hi, guys. Nice to see you. This will be fun.
It's
good to see
really a privilege to have you. You are one of the most interesting, amusing, entertaining human beings that I would say I study Scott Harrison. Just when I'm around, just the way you think, the way you
I
operate.
like amusing. I'm gonna keep with that one. Amusing. I like
What
it.
adjective do
I'll try to be amusing.
You are definitely amusing. You are incredibly intelligent. And
and your storytelling skills are very, very strong and impressive. The way you're able to tell a story is incredible. Both of you.
This is true.
Well, I don't know. I'm trying something new out, which is just a ton of statistics and facts and really dry data. So I was hoping to debut this new strategy here with you guys.
Dude, let's do it. Is this
Here
in all your speeches or is just Zooms? What exactly?
Just throw a bunch of
start saying
spreadsheet numbers at everybody and see what happens.
With PowerPoint presentation, just completely trying to put everybody to sleep.
I'm try and go for the shortest listen of all your podcasts to date. They're like, oh boy, that guy was terrible.
It's weird. Everyone tuned out at 4.5 minutes. Scott, are you traveling? Are you back out and around? I know you're in Nashville, Franklin area these days. You've relocated.
We're living in the great state of Tennessee. It's been a blast. But we were at our farm in Pennsylvania this weekend, so we just got back last night.
How often do you get up there?
A lot. We just went Friday to Monday. So it seems kind of crazy to drive and then fly and then drive, but we can do the whole trip in about 7 hours. And it was great. We went skiing on Saturday. It was President's Day weekend, and my son is 7 and just begs me all the time to ski. And there's not a lot of great skiing in Tennessee.
Is there any skiing?
Yeah,
in
don't they have
Tennessee?
some skiing in the Smoky Mountains?
There is. There's a place called Gatlinburg, which is made famous by Dollywood.
That's where all the roller coasters are and all that stuff, right?
Oh, it's like Las Vegas, but it's not like Las Vegas at all.
I've stayed at Dollywood Land, that hotel.
By yourself.
Yeah.
I had someone with me.
No, I'm just saying, like, it wasn't like a family trip.
It wasn't you. You didn't come with me. You said no thank you to the Dollywood Land trip.
And our kids said no thank you also.
None of the kids wanted to come. They're all real picky. You're like, where are you going? What church is it? I was like, it's Dollywood Hotel. They're like, tell us how that goes.
So yeah, a lot of traveling. We were in the BVI's last week and Puerto Rico. We were in California a couple of weeks before. So it feels really good to be back out there, meeting with our supporters, telling the story. I mean, sharing the dry statistics and data.
Yes.
Back in real life after a couple of years of pretty much everything on hold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you still getting to New York City much?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in New York next week. So, short trips kind of in and out for meetings, and, it's nice to come home. It's crazy how, if you'd asked me 2 years ago, I was going to live and die in New York City, raise our children in New York City, had lived there 26 years. And now I kind of can't imagine living there full time.
Oh, yeah.
What do you
it's
miss the
changed
most,
so
though?
much.
I'm sure there's things you miss living in such a small town where everything closes at 8 and the stoplights blink yellow after 11,
Yeah. So anybody familiar with Franklin, Tennessee, like one of the biggest adjustments for us has been that really nice restaurants are in strip malls. So you'll come out of like a really nice standalone restaurant and you're looking at Jennifer Leather, or you're looking at Ashley Furniture Store, or you're looking at Costco.
Yeah.
It's like the parking lot of the Costco is a nice steakhouse. So I think we miss we miss the culture of New York City, the busyness, the creativity, just the dynamism of Manhattan, which is really all my wife and I have known for 26 years, pre-pandemic.
Now, I saw an article that they're asking people to come back into the city and work again, and they're asking companies to kind of reverse the trend of everyone was kind of saying for a while, it's all going to be remote forever and we're done with this. But then it's almost like no one's riding their Pelotons and no one's getting any work done in the living room with their kids crawling all over them. So what do you think? I mean, you're a futurist.
But they're not coming back to work, Levi, in the ways that I think those people would hope. If we're a small example, we had about 25,000 square foot headquarters in Tribeca. So, we were looking at the Freedom Tower from
Gosh.
our office and had about 100 people in the office. About a year into the pandemic, when things started opening up, or I guess a year and a few months, we downsized our office to a smaller space and still had a bunch of people in the tri-state area who were asking us to open up the office. And we ran kind of a very COVID safe, protocol following New York City, hyper stringent guidelines. So people would sign in and sign out and wear masks and all of that. And of all the people that said they wanted to be in the office, when we just looked at the computer based on check-ins, it was 2 a day. 2.
Dang.
So we were keeping an office open for 2 people.
Some pretty big overhead for that.
Well, yeah. So we don't have an office anymore. We've actually gone fully remote as a culture now, which is totally interesting and kind of a new frontier. But I think that was an interesting learning, and what I'm hearing from a lot of other leaders and CEOs, that people kind of think and say they want to be in the office, but then they don't go.
If it's optional.
Because it's a pain to commute.
Totally.
And in a way, you're so used to your own rhythms on Zoom or, in this, right? The behaviors and the patterns of the last 2 years have become, in a way, more normal than waking up and jumping in a subway and, facing a delay or calling in late for work or you missed a train.
Mm.
So I think it's going to be hard to get the workforce back, especially in Manhattan. I mean, I know people that are leaving jobs specifically that don't offer that flexibility.
Gotcha. But the article, the specific one I was reading, and I'm sure there's a billion out there, was saying they're going to start with like, hey, ask them to come 3 days a weekend somehow, just to kind of revitalize and stimulate the city. And interesting. What do you? So you
but
think?
But house prices have not, rents have not gone down, and I think that's been the surprising thing. So many families. So we've got kids 5 and 7. And what typically happens for a lot of families with kids our ages is we get priced out of the city.
Gosh.
If I'm just giving you a snapshot of our life pre-COVID, I'll just give you the car as an example. We leased a Kia Sorento for $326 a month, and we parked the car for $600 a month, and we insured it for $300 a month.
Jeez.
Oh my God.
And we had a car because we actually worked out the rental costs, which were more expensive than $1,200 a month to have a Kia. And my mom was ill at the time, and we were seeing, her a lot and going back and forth to the hospital, over that period of a year or so. But, so many people just can't afford the city. And I think there was this sense in a lot of us that left. It's like, oh, our apartments that we left, they must be down like 30 or 40%. Our 2-bedroom that we left pre-COVID is renting out for more. And I have no idea.
See, that's the thing I don't understand, because in Montana, so many people have come in that there's no inventory. Right. But then I've talked to people in Texas, they say the same thing. And then I talk to people
same thing here in Tennessee.
Detroit,
a house goes on the market. 18 people from California, are bidding on the house like on day one. But San Francisco apparently is just still as expensive.
See, and that's
in New York.
The mystifying thing, because you think, oh, people must be leaving the big cities for the rural areas, but then you go to the big cities and it's the same thing. Maybe it's just because there was such pent up demand forever that it just hasn't been able to abate that.
I mean, it doesn't feel like we're having more babies than ever. I don't know. So I guess it's the new breed of 18 to 25-year-olds who want to make it in theater or film or music or finance. And, if I think about myself moving to New York at 18, I think my first apartment was 350 square feet. And it was a 6th floor walk up. And the rent might have been $600 a month, or something. That same apartment is probably $3,500 a month now, to get a few hundred square feet. And someone's paying it.
Yeah, someone's
paying it.
Now, I've heard co-working places, like WeWork obviously was the high standard at for a while. I've heard those are starting to begin to gender steam again. And people are beginning to show up at those, not wanting to be in their house, but maybe they don't have a company they go to. So they're, you're seeing more people wanting to be around people while working. What do you make of any of it? I mean, just curious. I like picking your brain because I just feel like you're aware of trends and kind of what do you see that is telling to you of where, society is changing or maybe getting back in some ways or long-term permanent shifts?
Yeah, I mean, I think the future of work is in a really interesting place where no one really knows where it's going. And as optimistic leaders, many of us believe we could potentially have the best of both worlds. So just to give you an example, Charity Water now is about 100 people, fully remote, so with no physical office where people go every day. But on Sunday or Monday, the whole company is flying to Puerto Rico for a week. We have a donor who gave us hotel rooms at 70% off in a really nice hotel. And we'll spend the whole week together as a company, both enjoying each other's company, playing, and working. Really intense strategic work. So we'll do that as a company twice a year. And then the individual teams and departments will get together every single quarter. So you kind of have the flexibility so Charity Water employees now are across 27 or 29 different states.
Wow.
So people have used that opportunity, I guess is the right word, to be able to live anywhere. And most of them have gone to less expensive cities. If you don't have to live within commuting distance of the most expensive city in America, although Miami, I think, just displaced New York this week. But okay, in the top 2 cities in America, and earn a nonprofit salary while doing it, well, why would you? So people have gone to Florida, they've gone to Texas, they've gone to Iowa, they've gone to, people can live anywhere they want. We've had some people go to Europe.
But remote working was remote working already a thing before the pandemic?
It was an option for us, but we had a culture where you showed up in the office.
Gotcha.
So even though Charity Water has an unlimited vacation policy, and the norm was you turn up in the office, you don't just work from home. We had a couple people that would just work from home permanently for various reasons. So now the culture is you work from home. And we need to figure out how to create a dynamic, vibrant culture, connected culture, to move beyond the two-dimensional impersonalization of Zoom, which in a way is wildly more efficient. We had our best 2 years in the history of the organization during the pandemic without being together. It was kind of against the odds. So the remote work is so much more efficient in some ways in just getting the actual work done. But, certainly you can feel lonely, you can feel disconnected to the mission, disconnected from your coworkers. And I think a bunch of us are just trying to figure out, how do we solve for both? How do we allow people to spend more time with their families, have more flexible schedules, be able to coach baseball or softball, and also get their work done, but also feel connected to the mission and connected to their team members.
Now, is there any tips you'd give for the person who's like, hey, I work from home. It's hard. Like, are there a few tips to come to your mind that you guys have learned that really seems to help as a person, as a human being, but then also leading an organization that does have remote? I mean, obviously Puerto Rico is a very tangible example. You mentioned a moment ago, 100%. Is that still, they get to choose their vacation days? Is that still a policy within the company?
Yeah.
I think Netflix really got popularity when they kind of announced that a while back, right?
Yeah, and we've had that probably for 10 years now. So this is not a unique thing to Charity Water. This is a very Silicon Valley. The irony of that is that the emails I get from my head of HR or people in culture is encouraging people to take more time off.
Yeah, I was going to ask, do you know where it averages, like across the organization, how many they take, how much
days. Levi, I think it's 12 days.
It averages to 12.
I think I just got my direct reports, and it was 12 days. And there were a couple that took 6 or 7. Right. So it's not, again, with many of these things, it's not on a policy that's abused. What we also found years ago, when we first started the unlimited vacation policy, we looked at how many days everyone had taken, kind of by their performance levels. And we found that our top performers were using more vacation than our lowest performers, right? A little counterintuitive, because you might think like, oh, wow, they took 24 days off. Did they ever even come to work? Like, what are they doing? They're out like golfing or playing tennis well, actually, those were some of the highest performers of the organization. So, maybe a word there for, bringing your full self to work, or,
wow,
The power of rejuvenation.
Yeah, the power of maybe being filled up by fun or relaxation out of work, and
Absolutely.
then coming with a kind of focused approach to work and crushing it in the days that you're there.
Well, I think it's a different, it's a freedom mentality, not a fear mentality. Not policing an organization based on one or two outliers who maybe weren't even organizational fits anyway, as opposed to hiring the right people, trusting those people, and letting them run.
But you've got your people that will just work all the time that you really need to say, hey, you need to take some time off. You're doing a great job.
Don't come here for a week. I know.
6 or 7 days is not enough off. Like we need to, so in some ways, the 14 days or the 2 or 3 weeks off constraint would be helpful for a lot of people. It's
Well,
like,
and
well, I
you're-
have these 14 days, I'm going to use them.
Yeah.
So there's, so you're balancing this on both. I mean, nothing is easy, right?
Right.
Nothing is as simple maybe as it seems. Oh, unlimited vacation and everything just works out. You've got people that aren't taking enough and you've got to encourage them. You've got a few people who are taking too much and aren't performing. And, you're constantly trying to kind of bring the edges in to the healthy middle. I don't know.
It's good.
Wow.
How about here's a few tips from Scott Harrison on, working from home. Do you guys subsidize any sort of a budget for stand-up desks or that kind of stuff?
Yep. We do all that. I think we pay for everybody's internet. It's a $500 or $1,000 kind of office budget every year to go and buy yourself a standing desk. Charity Water has a pretty robust benefits package from 401k to healthcare to dental to, these extra perks. We have a You Do You benefit where, if you're interested in going to the gym or, buying a meditation app or whatever that thing is, we'll just give you money to invest in your own professional development. And we've been doing this for many years. Tips on working from home. I mean, probably the biggest one for me is that I try to move as many calls outside while walking as possible. So
you are a fast walker. Also, having walked with you, you can walk.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, the expectation in the beginning of the pandemic was we all had to be on Zoom, on video all the time. And, if you think about any Hollywood movie, like the Hollywood producers are taking like 1,000 calls a day. They're in their Mercedes, they're on planes, they're on the tarmac, they're always waiting, right? There was a culture of getting business done, not on Zoom at all. I mean, you never saw anyone's faces. Right? They were all kind of barking into phones in these staccato typed, mini interactions that were moving some project forward or getting a deal done or reversing a deal. So I think I've tried to take a little bit of that into just my personal work. I can't stare at a screen. I think I had 11 meetings today. And, if I do 11 back-to-backs staring at this screen, I mean, it hurts your eyes.
Yeah.
Like, it hurts your soul.
Yeah, it does.
So, and there's just a bunch of stuff where I'm a bystander or it's totally fine to be walking the dog with headphones on, taking in the information and interjecting. And then there's other times where I'm presenting and I obviously need to be, sharing a screen or more engaged.
Yeah.
So I think that's been trying to break up the day and even have time to look forward to those walks outside or drives has helped me, in the marathon that is screens.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I love that, knowing what you need and knowing even what a walk will do for your soul also. Even if you are in a meeting as you're walking, it's just so helpful for you, body and soul. But I love that. That's so helpful. Knowing what you need and adjusting as needed. It's so helpful.
Now, Scott, you obviously, you've mentioned there's some people who would abuse and weren't working hard. Others, on the other end of things. I know you enough to know which of those two you fall into. You tend to be more on the side of go, always the next thing. How have you had to, find your own rhythms of rest and balance the intensity and the drive of having a whole organization on your shoulders?
I think that's a great question. And it took me far too long to understand maybe the nature of work, specifically for a leader or a founder or a CEO, that I, for so many years, maybe like 13 years, measured the work in activity, in planes traveled. I mean, I used to brag about doing 100 flights a year, which works out to a plane every 3.5 days. 250 speeches a year, right? It was this flurry of kind of activity and moving the thing forward. And I think what I started to realize just in the last couple of years is, in addition to that, you're always working because your brain really never shuts off. So at 2 a.m. when you wake up, and you have to pee, or, you just, like one of my kids crawled into my bed and started kicking me and pushing me off the bed.
It's real.
I'm up thinking about a problem. That could be an hour of work. And, turning over a problem and seeing it from different sides. Like, you never really, you got the whole weight. And as the organization gets bigger, those problems become thornier. And, or at least the stakes are so much higher for those problems. If you get it wrong, if you make the wrong decision, bigger repercussions. So I think I've been doing less activity and saying, I'm not slacking because I am kind of working all the time, and then trying to find those moments where you really do shut the brain off. And it's difficult. I mean, I went skiing with my 7-year-old and I'm thinking about it on the ski lift. I'm present with him. I'm off the phone, we're eating Skittles, but I am thinking about a really big decision that I have to make.
And it's occupying brain power for sure.
And that's work, right? So I would probably have always put that in the vacation bucket before. And now I'm like, no, I'm actually doing some work.
Yeah,
totally.
So maybe I could say no to that next trip. Maybe, there was a sense that I used to have in the entrepreneurial startup years that I have to outwork everyone else through activity. Now 15 years in, it's just a different kind of work. It's a more thoughtful, 30,000 foot, thinking about the vision for the future kind of work, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do less.
It's good stuff. How has the great resignation, as it's been called, affected the team at Charity Water? Have you guys had, what percentage of the team going into the pandemic is still on the team today? Like how much of a sense of that great kind of millennial and younger angst and wanted to be in the van life, seeing the national parks and not be doing a job at all, have you seen?
So I think we've all been surprised, the leadership at the org, at how low our churn or turnover has been. That said, we've been in a period of growth, not tightening with the pandemic. So, we've had, like I said, really like our 2 best years in 2020 and 2021.
Wow.
Praise God for that.
Just to give you a sense. So we hired 21 people last year, 21 new roles, and 6,600 people applied for those roles, fully applied. This isn't like sending an email. This is like going through the full application process.
Wow.
So I think all that to say, when someone resigns, and most people leave Charity Water to go into
2,200 applications for 21 jobs. Or more than applications. That's, you said people who actually made it through stages of the interview.
6,600 applications for 21 jobs. So, just all that to say, not that we're awesome, or it's just people want their life to matter. They want their work to matter. And I think the pandemic has highlighted the income equality gap, the sheer fact that markets can go up endlessly and people cannot eat and lose restaurants and lose jobs, and a real sense of people wanting to work for greater good or greater purpose. So I would say, so if someone leaves and goes to a tech company where they can certainly make a lot more money, there's 700 or 1,000 people, that we kind of know will apply for that job, and we'll be able to pick, a great next person to replace them and make the next contribution, for the next season ahead of Charity Water. So there hasn't been any sense of kind of scarcity or fear, but it is very, very rare that somebody would leave Charity Water to work at another nonprofit. It's almost always for the for-profit world.
Amazon.
And people say like, I'm having kids. I want to triple my salary at Google.
Yeah.
So people will leave to go to Google or Twitter or Squarespace or Zynga or Facebook or, which we feel great. We have, a longtime director went to Instagram. He's been there for 7 years. So it's kind of cool to have Charity Water alumni out there, in the for-profit space as well.
That's great.
That's amazing.
Zappos, I guess, at one point had a part of their interview famously where they would offer you a check to not take the job. They pay you for your training up until that point. It was like $2,000 or whatever it was. Don't take this job.
Kind of what the government has done.
But I guess it was their sense of like, hey, maybe this
not to get political.
I wasn't.
It's hard. It's hard to staff a restaurant these days.
I wasn't going to go there, but do you guys have to the point any bizarre things in the interview process that kind of determine if you're the right stuff or you guys' cultural fit, or any kind of bizarre or strange moments?
Probably nothing that that's strange. I know Tony Hsieh really well and got to spend a lot of time with him and speak at Zappos at 2 or 3 of his meetings over the years.
And what a sad thing his death was.
It was unbelievably tragic.
Yeah.
He was a friend. He was a donor.
I will say, Delivering Happiness, his book, was one of the best leadership books I've read in a long time. Those of you maybe starting up anything,
and still stands up to this day.
Very good read.
I think sometimes those things are gimmicks to get press, and to kind of create a story of this unique culture. Is that the most effective strategy? Paying people to not take a job. I think we would have a different approach, which is let's have a really long, rigorous interview process and make sure that it feels like a fit for you and a fit for our teams. So it just takes a long time to get hired at Charity Water. We don't hire fast. So we're very much unlike a Silicon Valley startup in that way. You're going to meet with like 11 different people, and 11 people are going to provide feedback. I meet with every single person that joins the organization as a final interview. So we want to make sure we're bringing on the right people who are values aligned, who care about the mission. And then I think who really are bringing a deep sense of mastery and expertise. I don't know if we talked about this before, but many years ago, Vic, my wife, who was the second employee of the org and the creative director for many years, she would have people write her all the time and say, I will do anything to work at Charity Water. And people would actually say, I'll clean the toilets. And I remember, Vic finding just that idea of joining her design department so anathema that you would just be willing to do anything. She's like, I'm looking for the most talented designers in the world. I want people to say, I have spent 10 years perfecting and advancing my craft as a UI UX designer or as a video animator or an editor. And I would love to do that here at Charity Water. I would love that my work would serve others and help people get clean drinking water, but that the mastery of the craft would come first, not kind of the love for the mission.
Wow.
And, because of that, she built an unbelievable design team of some of the most talented people who had come from agencies, who had worked, on amazing big design projects and weren't kind of like, hey, I'll do anything. Like, tell me what to do, sign me up for clean water and then find a place for me. And I think, at our size now, we have the luxury of really hiring experts across all the different departments of the organization and trying to then encourage them to further their mastery and pay for professional development and get coaching and go to the conferences that would be interesting to them.
That is interesting.
Wow.
And refreshing. I think one of the things I love about Charity Water, and I do in a minute want to just kind of talk about what it is for those maybe listening who aren't familiar with Charity Water. But you run a nonprofit in a way that feels much more like Apple or Dropbox or Airbnb in how it all comes across, your corporate materials, your communication, if you follow you on Instagram, and in a space where, lots of good organizations are doing good things, but definitely pull on the heartstrings more. And there's a bit more pandering and a bit more, look at that sad child. And, you guys' communication and approach is just very different than anybody else doing the same thing in the same space.
Yep. I mean, this is all intentional.
Yeah.
You know, when I started 15 years ago, I remember the Sally Struthers commercials. You know, the video of slow motion of kids in African refugee camps, and the flies were landing on their face in slow motion, and the 800 number came across, and she had sad eyes into the screen, and the kid had sad eyes into the screen. And this worked. It was guilt and shame based marketing. And it did get people to pull their wallets out. But, you know, if I thought about the great companies that I admired, the Apples or Nikes or Virgins of the world, they did not use guilt and shame as a tool to inspire buyers or to build a movement. You know, if you just use Nike for an example, you know, if Nike were an old style charity, they would walk around telling everybody that they're fat, lazy, and fat and overweight and lazy. They should put away the Cheetos and go out for a jog, right? And instead, like, Nike has done kind of the opposite with all of their marketing. Nike will believe that greatness is inside you, and they will tell stories of inspirational people overcoming adversity. You know, Nike believes that if you don't have legs, you can climb Everest.
Hello.
Or if you're blind, you can climb Everest. If you don't have two arms, you can still win the shot put competition with your one arm, right? And people are like, maybe there's greatness inside me. Maybe I do want to go for a jog. Maybe I will run my first mile. So, you know, Charity Water I wanted Charity Water to build an inspirational, aspirational brand that, you know, had hope and opportunity and fun in a way at its core. You know, fundraising, the first three letters are fun. It's not like guilt raising or shame raising or downer raising.
That's so good.
You know, it's like, this is a joy. We get to use our time and our talent and our money in the hopeful service of others. We get to, you know, bring the kingdom of God, whether you're a person of faith or just do good for others in the tragedy of a world where people suffer.
And that comes across so clearly.
Yeah,
the joy.
Really,
I don't think some of the videos, if people go on, you know, Charity Water's website or the Springs website, the videos and the stories of, you don't focus on, I mean, obviously you tell the truth of the sadness of the problem, but your focus is on, here's what happens when there's a solution. Here's what happens when there's joy. Yeah. It's textbook to me, like communication, story, feel. You're tapping into something deep. And I do have to get you.
And even think back to Apple, you know, those early campaigns that some people will remember. They did a whole series of campaigns. I think it was Think Different.
Think Different.
Where it was Edison and Helen Keller. And the whole thing was around creativity.
Yeah.
I don't think there were any computers in any of those campaigins.
Even the 1984 one. It's the sledgehammer going to the man on the wall, you know.
But,
right? It was highlighting creativity, entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And hey, we have a tool that will allow you to be your greatest. Well, Charity Water is a tool. It's a tool to turn money into clean water for the 771 million people living in the world without it.
Right.
You know, as we record this, sadly, 1 out of 10 people alive are drinking disgusting water that could kill them at any minute.
Hello.
And you know, so really it's that tool. If Apple created a series of tools for creators to create, Charity Water is a tool for generous, compassionate people to, you know, turn the thing they have, whether it is time or money, into human flourishing.
Yeah. You know, and it's such
who doesn't want to be a part of that, right? So it's an invitation.
Yeah, it's like where do I send my money? But you never made me feel guilty that I have a bottle of Fiji. You know what I mean? It's like it's hey, leverage
both
this within you. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and what's so beautiful is that's the heart of God, because we've been reading through the Bible. We're in the Old Testament right now, but as God was building, as God wanted His people to build the tabernacle. I mean, first of all, we see who He is, the master craftsman, designer in creation.
Who's the best with metal? Who's the best with fabric? Yeah, that's...
But yes, with the tabernacle, it was just so beautiful because it kept talking about how God wanted the best artisan and designer and the craftsmanship and the specific details of what this would look like. And all I could see was, wow, God is a designer of beautiful things, and he wants his people to be about that exact thing. And so when we see things like, well, people like you creating a space like this, that is all of that, that's the heart of God. And I think that that's what's so inspiring and shows each of us that we can do that wherever God's called us to be and where he's given us influence. And I think that that's inspiring, and that's how God wants us to live.
Yeah, I don't think excellence gets talked about enough. And I think excellence inspires other people to greatness.
Absolutely.
You had a conversation with Simon Sinek on your Instagram. I don't know if I told you this. I quoted the conversation in my book, The Last Supper on the Moon, when you were asking, he's brilliant, by the way.
Which is on my bedside table, by the way. So a plug for your book.
Okay.
Mine
it is
too.
on the bedside table.
Oh, that's, well,
So
that
it is next in line.
I will Venmo you on the back end of this recording for saying that. But you, Scott, this conversation, it was bringing up Nike. He talked about what Nike thinks "just do it" means. And it's the guy, cheering under the lamplight when the girl has got up in the rain and snow to run anyway. And we at Nike are the ones cheering. I mean, it's just like that thinking, that's a different way of approaching. Oh, we're selling shoes,
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying
it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So they're selling an achievement, athletic, healthy lifestyle of adventure and finding more within you than you even thought you had within you.
Yeah.
And we're in a way a lifestyle brand, which is saying care for others, right? Look
Yes.
around you at people suffering unnecessarily without the most basic needs met. And you have a part to play. You have a part you could play, and you are invited. Really, I think that was the last chapter in my book. It was like, you're invited, not you have to, not you should feel ashamed if you're not. It's like, hey, you're invited. This is a party. This is a party where, people are getting clean and safe drinking water every single day and living lives that are healthier. Lives where everybody in the community is healthier, where income is elevated because of clean water, where schools have clean water and education is improved, where women and girls are lifted up because they don't have to walk 5 hours or 6 hours for dirty water anymore, right? You're kind of invited to this party. Do you want to come?
It's huge.
And I think,
to me,
a million people have said they want to come.
Yeah.
This is inspiring
and we feel
because
like that's a fraction.
Yes.
not everybody's
what's available.
Yeah.
not everybody's going to lead an organization or, start a shoe company, but this level of thinking in whatever we're doing, if you're a teacher, if you run a bakery, like just not necessarily thinking industry specific, like to your competition, to how you're going to approach your strategy, finding inspiration in the unlikely places and tapping into something that's more deep inside of people.
Yeah, we're big Don Miller fans, for people that are interested in this and the hero's journey and some of the stuff he's done with StoryBrand. We look at our role as the guide. We are not the hero in the story. The Charity Water team, we are not heroes. We're really trying to elevate our local partners around the world who are the ones drilling these wells, the communities who are often, putting in so much sweat equity to realize their own water project, and the Charity Water donor community around the world. I mean, we've had 8-year-old girls out there selling lemonade 12 weekends in a row to send in a little bit of money. There was a girl in Vancouver. It started pouring rain and she would not come in because she thought somebody still might buy lemonade that would help kids get clean water that she'd never met. So it's our job to tell those stories and elevate people who are really, finding the best in themselves.
Wow.
And using that in the service of others. So I love that kind of the idea of the guide. So many people look around at, the tragedy of the world, the tragedy in their local communities, the tragedy in the global community, and they just feel paralyzed. Like, where do I start? Right? It just feels so overwhelming to so many people. I think that's the same thing. Like, if maybe you're really out of shape, you love the idea of running, but boy, it just feels like it's a bridge too far. Am I really the person that's getting up at 5 a.m. and jogging? And I think, it's organizations like ours that can encourage people to make a small step.
Yes.
And then show them that small step actually did matter. And that's why the 100% model has been so important to Charity Water. And this idea of proving every water project on Google Earth and Google Maps and, going back to a child that sends in $8.15 of their allowance and saying, here's exactly where your $8 landed. It's in Malawi. It went to this water project. Now, the water project costs $11,000, but your $8.15 was a part of that $11,000.
Yes.
Had you not given it, we would have been short.
Love that so much.
That's radical. And to celebrate with you, 15 years of Charity Water, you guys just hit the 15 million mark of people who have been reached with clean water in 15 years.
Yeah, which is a fraction of what we should have done and a fraction of what's available. So I to quote my friend Daniel from Spotify, I think we're in the second inning, and this is very early days of building the organization, building the competency, learning from a lot of mistakes. We've only helped there's 771 million people. So you put the 15 million into 771, it's 1/50th of the way there.
And this is why I love you,
times harder.
that you're saying most people in the world, Scott, who were just drunk in nightclubs, like miserable in New York, and all of a sudden radically impacted, radically touched. And now you're like, I want to get people clean water. Most people, Scott, if they got to 15 million people that have water because of their contributions, being the guide as you are, would be like, yes. And you're like, well, we have not even yet begun to fight. This is why I love you.
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's true. And there's an extraordinary amount of goodwill and capital. And, there's an army of people who really want to help.
But you do also need to acknowledge that's a big deal, though, right? I hope you're self-aware enough to where you can every once in a while sit back and think, 15 million is a lot of freaking people.
Everybody worries about me in this regard. So
I am on the list.
Come on, Scott. We believe in you.
Scott, that's a big deal.
The closest that I've come is I was at Madison Square Garden with my wife once, and it was sold out. And the garden holds Madison Square Garden in New York City. It's about 18,000 people. And I realized that the 15 million people would sell out the garden about 750 days in a row.
Oh my gosh.
So we've sold out the garden for 2 consecutive years to hold 15 million people. Okay. So that's like a picture of, now at Charity Water's clip this year, we are just every 3 days, we are selling out the garden with the new people we're helping get clean water. So it's now about 6,000 new people every single day of the year. So today, 6,000 people get clean water, and tomorrow, 6,000 people. I'm like, that should be 60,000. Like, are you kidding me? Only 6,000 people a day? With all the resources that are out there? With all the people who could be giving $10, $20, $30? With all the billionaires who could be giving $10, $20, $30 million?
Right.
This is a fraction of what is possible and what's available.
Do you ever have to check that drive to not exhaust and weary those who perhaps don't have the same exact kind of plate that you do? Does it take work for you to come into gatherings or whatever and appreciate the wins? Asking for a friend.
It does take a lot of work appreciating the wins. So I have designed an organization that is very good at celebrating and appreciating the wins and putting me in the corner.
And you're the evil architect going, guys.
And muting me. Like I get muzzled in a lot of these situations. I'm given a script.
Scott, this is what you're supposed to say.
Because you see the 760 million that don't have it yet, not the ones that do.
I see potential. It's not that I don't think our team has done an extraordinary job or has worked with high integrity and the utmost effort and competence. It's just the potential.
Right.
There's more.
Totally.
I'll just give you one example from just from the last week. And, I can't say who this is, but there is a dear friend of mine who runs a very successful tech company and had donated his birthday to Charity Water, had come with me to Ethiopia to see his birthday well. And this is someone who I respect. He's mentored me. He's given me so many great ideas on leading a company over the years. And, I kind of got up the courage to ask him for $10 million. And we did it in a really thoughtful, sophisticated, soulful way. There was this gorgeous package honoring what he and his wife had done and, what this $10 million would do for the water cause over the next period of years. And I didn't get to talk to him for about 2 months until after he received the package. And I talked to him last week. And, I think there's definitely a biblical spiritual learning here. And I'm going to paraphrase him, but he said, so, my wife and I, we reviewed all the materials, and I just want to know, why'd you ask for so little?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
And then he gave $40 million.
Yeah, well.
$40 million.
Wow.
There you go.
Which is enough to get 1 million new people access to clean water.
16 million, check.
So, there was a lot to think about there. So I think it's those small stories. Now, normally it goes, you ask someone for 10, they give you 1 or nothing or not now or later. Or, it's very rare that you have a supporter saying, hey, you need to think bigger about my personal generosity. But, there are enough of those moments that really I said to my wife, I'm like, what's wrong with me? Why am I not? I think I'm a big thinker. And apparently I'm even asking for a fraction of what is available, or I'm thinking too small, or I'm not challenging people, so we're not going fast enough. I take responsibility. It's not because my team isn't going fast enough. It's because I haven't figured it out yet. I haven't figured out how to unlock that generosity, again, at $10 a month, because Charity Water is actually not powered by big gifts. We're powered by small gifts.
Yeah, talk to us just for a minute about the spring, what the spring is and how people could maybe
Charity Water's our biggest and most important stream of donations that help people get clean water. The average is $28 a month. And it's a community called The Spring.
Love it.
And it's just a lot of people from 147 countries giving about $30 a month, knowing every month that, for the price of 2 Netflixes or 2 Amazon Primes or 2 Hulus or, 3 Spotifys or, 3 Apple Musics, then...
Or Paramount Plus or all the things we're having to figure out today.
You name
Peacock. It's just...
Dropbox,
oh my gosh. Are we going to hit an end of these subscriptions, by the way? Are we going to hit an end of these? Is there a tipping point?
I think the average person now has 15, Levi. So, again, The Spring it's not like a genius idea. It's just a subscription where 100% of the money that people give every month helps people get clean water. And then we share stories of impact, and 100% of it goes. So that's actually, the community that I'm most excited about growing. And that's where I think our biggest impact comes from, not from the billionaires, not from the millionaires, but from a compassionate group of people all around the world that say, I could do something. I could do 10 a month. I could do 30 a month. I could do 50 a month. There's some people that give $100 a month. So it's really, so I guess just to put a point on it, there's such a discontent in how little we've done based on what is available. And if you just talk about our issue for a second, I don't know that there is a more singular, inarguable good in the world. It's not political, right? You're not going to fight about it, whether you're religious or not religious. If you're an atheist or a Jew or a Christian or a Mormon or a Muslim, you think clean water is a good idea.
Right.
If you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or a libertarian, you think clean water is a good idea. If you're 6 years old or 80 years old, you think clean water is a good idea for humans. So that's the frustration. We have this, there are very few things these days that everybody can agree on. A shrinking amount of things, it seems, that build unity or consensus. And we've got that thing. And we've only raised $700 million. We've only helped 15 million people get clean water.
Yeah. Come on.
So the best better yet be, we better just be getting started.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love all of that. I love the $40 million giver being important and mattering, and that teaching you about bigger faith. And I love also the person that's given $28 a month. And I would encourage everybody, if you're not, get on Charity Water's website, Google the spring, watch this video, look at the model. And I think one of the things you'll be most shocked by is what you're getting back, the photos, the images, the stories. Like you mentioned, you're going to get a Google map of the well. We've gotten to come together and raise money towards projects, and it's so refreshing to hear back and go, like, this is what that's doing. And to me, Scott, I love in my industry as an author and in church and just thinking about you. You're an inspiration to me. I guarantee you the people listening, you're blessing them in ways they don't even realize.
Yeah.
Much like, was it Reed Hastings who was asked about, like, are you worried about Amazon Prime encroaching on your territory? And he said, Amazon Prime's not my competition. Sleep is. Sleep is my competition at Netflix. And I'm like, that's a different way of thinking about it.
Wow.
Like, that's my biggest competitor. It's like,
I'm a little scary if we're all honest, especially as parents.
1,000% scary. I was just telling Jenny, watching whatever Reacher, I was like, I forgot how much watching TV shows in bed is not good for sleep versus reading a book. Nothing against watching a show at some point, but reading a book's helpful to go to sleep. But that he's thinking differently. He's not like, oh, this is my competition. And for a church going, hey, the other church down the block isn't my competition. Hell is, right? The Blue Ocean book.
Or apathy.
Yeah, right.
Or consumerism.
There you go.
We don't think our competition is other charities. We're not fighting for a finite amount.
You're not like World Vision and Compassion. You're going down,
We just want everybody to grow.
Yeah.
Yes.
We want everybody to grow in their impact, and we want people's hearts to grow, really, as they realize we really do have resources that can, end some of this needless suffering and bring hope and healing to people.
I remember when we brought you up,
tangible ways.
Yes.
I remember when we brought you up to teach and you share your story, and we just wanted everyone at Fresh Life to become a spring member and give to you and all that. We were talking about how some pastors might have an insecurity about that. Like, oh, if I tell them to give to this organization, they'll stop giving to me. And you were saying you guys have actually found the opposite, that churches and leaders
I told you.
Yeah.
I think I told you. The more you give, the more you give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the more you exercise, the more you want to exercise.
Yeah.
Well, that felt great.
So true.
Well, I was generous. Yeah, people aren't saying like, oh, I'm going to stop giving to my church because the church introduced me to an amazing cause. They're going to say, great, I'm going to give to two things.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to give to my church, who I love, and I'm going to give to this new cause.
Well, it's that verse in the
maybe,
Bible.
we introduce our biggest givers as a family, just Vic and I, the people that we have the deepest relationship, we'll introduce them to other causes.
Yeah. Well, and it's so beautiful.
And even if they did give a little less to us, I'm so excited that they're giving, that they're engaged.
Totally. Well, it's that Bible verse that says the world of the generous gets bigger and bigger, but the world of the stingy gets smaller and smaller. So that what you're saying about wanting people's hearts to get bigger, like as your heart gets bigger and your generosity gets bigger, that only grows and grows, because with God, the generosity begets generosity. And so there is only more. It's not like this scarcity mentality, and which is so beautiful in the Lord, especially to be able to grow in generosity.
Totally agree.
Scott, you guys also, and when I say you guys, I mean you, obviously your wife and your team are all part of it, but you specifically invented something that we're seeing more and more done in the nonprofit sector, and that is the idea of giving a birthday away. You mentioned that. Could you tell a little bit about the origin of that and just kind of how maybe someone listening today could be a part of that?
Yeah, sure. Well, so anybody that doesn't know my story, I was a club promoter for 10 years, rebelling against a very conservative Christian upbringing. And I'd moved to New York City, worked at 40 different clubs, drinking, smoking, drugging, just making a total mess out of my life. And at 28 years old, came back to faith, wanted to, put action to that. And that wound up taking me to Liberia, West Africa on a humanitarian medical mission, which is where I saw people drinking dirty water and realized this was the root cause of so much of the global sickness and so much of the suffering. So, Charity Water started at 30. Day one at the organization, the only idea I had at the time to raise money was to throw a birthday party for myself in a nightclub. So I got this club donated and I threw my 31st birthday party. and like 700 people came because I gave them open bar. And I made them all donate $20 just to get in the club for the party. So at the end of the night, we had about $15,000 in cash. We took 100% of that money to build our first couple wells in Uganda. And then we sent back the proof, the photos and the video and the GPS coordinates and the satellite images to all 700 people. And we said, hey, you came, you gave $20. People are now drinking clean water because of these gifts adding up to real impact. And that was kind of like the model proved in one loop or one kind of circle. And we said, okay, let's just keep doing more of this because it seems to work. People like seeing where their money goes. They like knowing that all their money goes, that none of it goes to salaries or overhead. And we have a small group of 100 families who take care of all that. And
that's, by the way, just worthy of bringing up. You guys have kind of paradigmed that too. That's a different paradigm. And you raise your staff costs independently of what you raise that goes to the field.
Yep. So about 1 million, more than 1 million donors worldwide are able to give where 100% of their money, whether they give $1 or $100. In fact, we even pay back credit card fees. So if someone goes online and gives $100 on their American Express, we only get 97. But so that there's pure integrity in that 100% promise, we actually pay that $3 back. 100 overhead donors pay for everything. And these are business owners and entrepreneurs who just love paying for the office costs and the toner for the Epson, copy machine and the phone bills and the insurance and the flights and the salaries. So it's a very simple model. We literally have 2 separately audited bank accounts that KPMG publishes an opinion on our website every year. So, the birthday, on a year later, we just said, having a party at a club is kind of not a scalable idea. Nobody needs another party. And I just thought, what if I could use my 32nd birthday and like everybody I know has $32 that they could give. And if they came to the party, they would spend that just on taxis. And even if there was open bar, they would spend at least that on taxis and tipping.
Yep.
So I just said, hey, instead of there's no party, I don't need any gifts. Don't give me a tie or a wallet. Donate $32 for my 32nd birthday, and we'll track all the money. And interestingly, we raised $150,000.
Gosh.
Me and a few other September birthdays that year. So we 10x'd the idea of kind of the party in a club. And then that led to, a bunch of people all over the world donating their birthday, from 6-year-olds to 89-year-olds to births to deaths. And, through that and our fundraisers, they've now, people have raised over $100 million just with that simple idea, and gotten close to 3 million people clean water.
Gosh.
And everybody has a birthday, and no one really needs any gifts, and no one really needs a party.
Right.
So it's a kind of beautiful idea that we can help people have more birthdays.
Wow.
I mean, so many kids will die before their 5th birthday because they had dirty water to drink.
Yeah.
So our birthdays can create and generate more birthdays for people in need all around the world. And it's a great way to involve our friends and our family and our loved ones. So we have a website called My Charity Water that tracks all the birthday gifts and makes the tools easy. But that's been a huge part of the movement.
And you guys, there's been some high profile, Will Smith and Bono and just tons of different people.
We've had a lot of great people, give up their birthdays and come and see the impact. And, Will Smith and Casey Neistat and, Kristen Bell, and we've gotten to work with some great people.
Yeah.
But, the most memorable ones are the 89-year-old grandmothers that donate their birthdays, or the 16-year-olds in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
It's often people who are not rich, who are not famous, who are making the biggest emotional, inspirational impact on our community and our team.
Beautiful.
Well, now you're starting, as I mentioned, just like our mutual friend Blake McCoskey invented this 1-for-1 model that everyone kind of took. You kind of now we're seeing other nonprofits do that, and that's an amazing thing. And I think Jenny this year did a birthday party with A21, where they're not, so it's really cool to see that an idea that came from your life, your story. Now, other nonprofits are using that. And
Yep. Yeah, I mean, all this stuff is free. There's no like copyright on any of this.
Right.
That's a generous spirit.
I remember Heifer International, and that was known for selling goats and sheep in catalogs. The gift catalogs at the end of the year. They sent me an email asking me to donate my birthday.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that was my idea, like 10 years ago.
That is funny.
But it felt great.
That's amazing.
We don't have a monopoly on birthdays. There's so many great causes. There's so many people doing, rich, important work that benefits others. This is just an idea that allows people to raise awareness and money for these important causes.
Right. Gosh, well, you're inspiring us all the time. You're inspiring our church. You're inspiring the world. And we're just so grateful for you, Scott, you and your family.
I did want to ask you.
We're not done.
I'm not. I mean, I will let you go eventually, but I will do it begrudgingly. I will do it kicking and screaming. I was curious, Scott, one question I did want to ask you, I feel like you're very aware of trends and, what are you guys doing and what are you seeing with the ability of people to give to charity water with Bitcoin and crypto? And can you guys accept NFTs? Where do you see the future of the nonprofit generosity?
You should ask.
Yeah.
We're about to launch a big NFT project in about 3.5 weeks for World Water Day. And we were really early in the Bitcoin space. We've taken in about 660 Bitcoin now, worth millions and millions of dollars since 2014. People donated in ETH. People donated in a bunch of different currencies. So yes, we are very much, if people are interested in crypto or interested in donating, you can just go to charitywater.org/crypto. And a lot of the different initiatives are there. And it's a great way that people can be generous. And, we hear from a lot of people, they don't want to pay taxes on their gains, and they'd rather give that away and see, that impact realized.
Wow.
So I think it's a big opportunity for future philanthropists that have done very well, or they were very early in the space, and they can use that crypto to provide basic needs for others.
Huge. That's amazing.
Also wanted to ask, Scott, you're moving fast, you're thinking quick, you're doing a lot. What do you have in your weekly rhythm? I mean, you mentioned going skiing. I know you have a farm in Pennsylvania you like to get to chill out a little bit. What maybe are some things that keep you at your best that you, whether daily or weekly or even more irregularly, that might be a little unusual, that help you stay strong?
I'm not fantastic with discipline and ordered schedules. So, it typically looks like I'll feel, if I'm honest, Levi, I'm normally not ahead of it. I'm normally a little behind the curve. Like, wow, I'm feeling exhausted. I need to get away for a couple of days, or, I need to make a change. It's typically a little less. I mean, I've got a 5 and a 7-year-old as well. And my daughter, I will put her back 3 times a night in her own bed after waking up 3 times. And then she will jump back in my bed in the 4th, and I just give up. So, we're also kind of.
That's real.
You're in it.
We're just in it with the kids at the moment. And, it's a busy family season for us. So I'm not awesome at, waking up early and, cracking open the Bible, an hour at 5 o'clock, an hour before the kids get up. And I think just really trying to be present with the family, being really aware of the devices and the screens and, a lot of reading. I love putting my kids to bed. I love reading to them. I love praying with them.
Any books you've been reading them lately that you've loved? Any favorites in the Harrison household?
I'm reading Hardy Boys, stuff from my childhood, like Beautiful Joe, dog books and Big Red and stuff that I remember growing up with. I love your Roar Like a Lion. We do that in the morning.
Awesome.
Maybe every second or third morning we've done your devotional book for kids.
That's amazing.
Which is a lot of fun. They love the bookmark and that.
Yes, for the bookmark. I fought hard for that, Scott.
You fought hard for it. It was worth every penny.
Yes.
Because my kids, that book, that stands above some of the other devotionals. I'm not going to say who, but
you're not going to know where you're at in the book without that bookmark.
It's
you
true.
got to be bending pages over like a caveman.
Yeah. So I'd say that gives me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
It's just those quiet moments, reading with the kids. There's no screens, there's no TV, there's no distraction. And praying with them and exercising gratitude. That's one of the things we're trying to do well as a family is we'll play the grateful game, and everybody has to do at least 10 unique things that they're grateful for. And it's awesome. I mean, sometimes the kids will stop at 17.
Wow.
Or, 20.
The grateful
keep
game.
Going.
That's a great game.
Yeah,
Scott, we could keep this going forever, but we want to let you go because you're literally going to spend the rest of your day trying to get water to 70 million people. So,
after you pick your kids up from school.
760.
Yeah, I mean,
million.
I wish it was 70, Levi. That's prophetic.
No.
We're going to have this conversation at some point in the future, and we'll be down to 70 million.
Yes.
And
Amen.
will you finally be happy then? Will you? Can you?
70 million. Oh, I'm happy now.
When you get to 70, can you fist pump once?
The funny thing is, like, when we all get this done, I think we're going to take everything we've learned and our whole community and focus them on another problem.
See, and that's why
that's injustice.
That you're saying
that's not a bad thing, though. That's not a bad thing.
When we get this done,
we learned so much. We knocked out, hundreds of millions of people without clean water. We built this generous community of trust and transparency. Let's go make sure nobody's hungry. Let's go make sure nobody is living without a roof over their head. Let's make sure no kid is trafficked. Let's make sure everybody has access to healthcare. So I don't think there's like the happiness, drop the mic, like you've done it,
boom, done
moment in this kind of work.
Right.
You're waking up saying, how do I be useful? How do I make the biggest impact with what I've been given, in the lives of others? And also be a good husband and be a good friend and be a good father. So yeah, there's no goal line really.
Well, you're doing it. You're doing it right
water,
now.
But there's no goal line in service.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So good, Scott.
I freaking love you, Scott. Thank you. The book, Thirst, is the story of Scott's life, the journey, the building of Charity Water. New York Times bestseller. No big deal. It's a great read. Scott, you did a good job on that. Website, Charity Water. We've mentioned my birthday, the getting to be a part of the spring. I recommend everyone listening to engage with Charity Water. Follow Scott Harrison on social media. And thanks for blazing a trail. Thanks for being someone in my mind who I look at. I'm like, how would Scott Harrison look at this problem? Because it would be different. It would be refreshing. And you're an amazing person with a beautiful head of hair.
Yes.
We miss you guys. I hope it can get out to Montana soon and hang.
Yeah, give our love to Vic and the kids.
When, not if, Scott. Love you.
Love you.
Yeah. See you guys.
Thank you so much for listening. And be sure to swing by LeviLusko.com to see what's going on in our world, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. In the meantime, we would love to connect with you on social media. Jenny and Levi Lusko, out.